Hi everyone. I am so excited today. I have got Shelley Gawith joining me here to record an episode which I'm personally, on both a personal and professional level, so excited to unpack and learn more about. Shelley is New Zealand's first functional nutritionist, servicing and helping busy corporates around the globe reduce stress by combining medically sound practices with nutrition based care. And Shelley, we are going to get under the skin of all things adrenal fatigue, and we'll see where else our conversation meanders and navigates as we go through. But thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for joining me today. Really good to have you here, Shelley.
Thank you for having me, Laura, and thank you for this amazing topic. Like, I wish when I'm an ex-chartered accountant and I worked for a big investment bank in Australia, in Sydney, I was based, and I wish I'd had this snippet. Like, when we were talking before you started recording and you said, I've heard a little bit about adrenal fatigue. Well, I hadn't. And so when my body literally burnt out, like everything gave up, I didn't even know where to begin to rebuild myself. I didn't know any questions to ask. And I always look back, not with regret, like not definitely not with regret because you can't change what you don't know. But I'm like, but if I'd had somebody, like a podcast or somebody mention this, would I have changed some of my habits, easy habits that we're going to talk about now,
Yeah.
to in my banking days, like in my daily life, that might not have created the burnout and the impact that cost me a few years of my life, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, oh my goodness, yeah, and so prevalent too, right? I mean, this is what the work that you do that keeps you busy. I'm going to say 24/7. Like, I know you don't
Yeah,
work 24/7, but I bet it feels like that sometimes. Yeah, like you're busy. Your services are, from what I know, absolutely 100%, 300% in demand for good reason, because this is something that, people need help and support with. And so, Shelley, I was really keen to know more about your background. You touched on some of it there. So, chartered accountant by trade, can I say? Is that right? I just can't imagine you being an accountant.
well, you know what? I agree. A lot of people can't, but it actually serves me very well. My love of numbers, my love of data, my love of spreadsheets also serves me very well because a lot of nutrition is actually data, numbers, and spreadsheets. Looking at blood work is numbers. Looking at the nutrients that people need each day to meet the requirements of what you should eat is actually numbers. And so
Yeah,
my whole tagline, which you would have heard many a times, Laura, is don't guess. Like, we need data. Test everything to get the data so then we know what's happening in your body. And so my banking world serves me very well because I see people, obviously, as people, but I also need to make sure that my debits and credits in terms of your health match every single day. So you're in very safe
I love
hands.
it.
But I was by trade, or straight out of university. I studied to be a chartered accountant. I thought I was going to be an accountant for the rest of my life. I realized that I didn't want to just stay as a chartered accountant. I really loved commercial, and so I was living in New Zealand at the time, and just was like, the world's my oyster. I knew I didn't want to go to London. I thought I'd burn out there. The irony is, I burnt out anyway. But I thought London would just be too cutthroat in the banking world. So I went to Sydney instead. Turns out Sydney's just as cutthroat. It's a personality, probably a type A personality that burns you out at times. I was probably more the problem. And so I was the financial manager for a large division of, there was like 300 staff underneath me at the time. And so I ran this IT component of like a big, it was boring, but basically in the banking world. And so I worked very long hours, and I laughed because I had this saying that I didn't really work hard on Fridays, but I would literally work 16 to 17 hours Monday to Thursday, and then at 4 o'clock on a Friday I would log off and go home. And that to me meant that I had really good work-life balance, Laura, because I didn't work late on a Friday night.
I love it, and I'm laughing so much because I can so resonate from my own career days too. I mean, I don't know that I was doing consistently 16 or 17-hour days, but definitely 12-hour days plus. And yeah, like the Friday early finish, 4 o'clock. I mean, how crazy, right? Just
and
throwing it.
And Laura, in the banking world, we'd compete for who actually got the least amount of sleep. And I literally had this saying, which I've definitely transformed now. I was like, sleep is for when you're dead. Like, what do we need sleep for? And because I came from an accounting background, which was all chargeable units and chargeable time, I was like, sleep is not productive. In terms of adrenal health and burnout, it's very productive, actually, I've now learned. But back then, pre my health life, I thought sleep was a complete and utter waste of time. We didn't do anything when we were asleep, so why did we need it?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, so true. And I wasn't an accountant, but working in recruitment, right, which is a sales role. It's still KPIs, hours, all the pieces, right? Like that resonates so much. Yeah, and I mean, I used to have. It was almost like the badge of honor that I would wear, like my sick leave balance was ridiculously high because I never took sick leave because quote unquote I never got sick. I did get sick, I just worked through it, and I was tough and I didn't need sick leave and all of these things, right, which I look back now and I think since I've had my business 3-4 years, like I have taken more sick days than I did in an entire 17-year career. Not because I've been sicker, not because I've been sicker, but because I've allowed myself to stop when I felt something. It's just crazy. Like you say, it's that kind of type A personality kicking in. Yeah, we think it serves us, and then we realize as we mature and learn it doesn't quite so well. So interesting.
Totally agree with you, Laura, 100%. And I think it probably goes into, as we age as well, our adrenals, which is what actually causes burnout, which we can talk about in a second, they have such a load on them that you don't have when you're 24, 25 starting out your career. So when people say youth is on your side, even from a health and a physiological point of view with our actual organs, youth is on your side initially. It's just once we start kicking over into the 30s, late 30s, early 40s, we start going through perimenopause, these types of things, that's when the going gets tougher and we start to see the cracks in our body and some of our thinking, and we have to change to cope with our bodies changing.
Yeah, right. And I definitely want to know more around that. But before we do, what was the trigger or that transition for you then, Shelley, to shift from the corporate banking world and accounting into the world of functional nutrition?
So I was totally broken, but that's one way of putting it. But what happened was I moved to a bigger bank, took on a bigger role, which meant I was definitely not going to call in sick, Laura, because now I had more to prove. I was more senior, there was more males. And 2 weeks in, I can remember this very vividly, even though it's over a decade now, 2 weeks into this new role, proper, not a cold, but proper full-blown influenza, like proper influenza was going around. And so I caught it, like almost the whole office did, but I didn't call in sick because I was the newbie and I didn't want to be seen like that. And so the influenza turned into a chest infection. But Laura, I was literally still going to work, even though I was wheezing and coughing. I couldn't even walk to work. I was walking distance to the bank, but I was catching taxis back then. We didn't have Uber, because I was just so fatigued and so weak. And then I finally couldn't even do that anymore. I went to my doctor and she was like, you've got a chest infection well out of control. You've got influenza and you've now been sick. Like I'd been showing up to work like this for about 3 months. And she told me to take 2 weeks off and wrote me a medical certificate and said, you'll be better in 2 weeks. Well, I wasn't. I was actually worse. And the beginning of me getting even worse was I started to lose my brain function, like my actual cognitive function. And so after the 2 weeks, we then extended it another 2 weeks. And this just kept going on until eventually I couldn't even get out of bed. I couldn't walk to the bathroom by myself. I couldn't cook. And my doctor at the time was like, basically, we need to hospitalize you and you will die in hospital. Like those were her exact words, because she was like, you are so sick and you're rapidly declining so fast and the medical world has nothing for you. And so even though I knew nothing about diet, I did think to myself, if you've just told me that I'm going to hospital and there's nothing you can do for me, I am not going to die in hospital. Like, there's if I'm going to die because my body has failed so badly, I'm at least going to go home to New Zealand and die with my family. And so we've got journals from my mum that what she wrote when I first came home, and she truly believed that some TLC, tender love and care, mother's love, that I'd be back on my feet after 4 or 6 weeks. Like I just needed a lot of rest. and a lot of care and a mother's love and family home and all of those things. Was 6 weeks later, I deteriorated, like there was no change. And my younger sister at the time was an ICU nurse. And so they were providing full-time care, and I was seeing the best specialists and experts around the world. And long story short, that literally turned into 2 years of not getting out of bed, no brain function, like nothing. Like I was literally like a zombie.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I knew some of that from some of our interactions, but I've never really kind of registered it or maybe listened to it quite so intently as you've just shared. Yeah, crazy, Shelley. Absolutely crazy. And so from there, then, is that what's kind of sparked your interest in shifting into
Yep.
this to make it your work? Yeah.
So finally, after seeing some of the top experts or family members on my behalf, like my younger sister, seeing some of the top medical experts around the world, and everyone's saying there's nothing to do with for her, there's nothing we can do, there's no way to fix her, blah blah blah, like all of this. One doctor finally was like, well, have you changed your diet? Like literally, Laura, the beginning of all of this was bone broth and fermented food. He said, you've got to get bone broth in to help her heal her leaky gut, and you've got to help her start to feed her good gut bacteria. And so it was those two foods daily that my parents were so committed to giving me every day, even when I'd be like, my sisters wouldn't even come to visit. The house smelled like bone broth nonstop. And after that got me awake for 2 hours a day, just that change. And I started to be able to read and read like maybe a paragraph of the day. The rest of the time I just sleep. And I said to my parents, I'm going to get myself better. I'm going to study nutrition. I'm going to study something. There's something in this diet piece. And being an ex-accountant, like I needed data, I needed proof, I needed research. I didn't want to be an anecdotal story. And so I didn't know this at the time, but my dad was like, she can barely string together a sentence, and now she thinks she's going to study. But he was like, who cares? If she's got hope and she's got purpose, let's see what happens. And so that's where it all began, Laura. I literally
Amazing.
studied to heal myself, and that's when I heard about adrenal fatigue, burnout, all of these words that nobody had ever said anything about in the medical world until I started
Wow.
studying it.
Wow. Isn't that just crazy? And so, if there was such a thing as like a diagnosis for you at that stage, what was there such a thing, and what was it? If so.
Well, they medically diagnosed me at the time with chronic fatigue syndrome, which is a label for basically saying we don't know what to do with you. You're fatigued. There's nothing, and the diagnosis of that is there's nothing we can do for you. So they did diagnose me with that. But once I started getting a hold of my labs and started looking into it, I'm like, chronic fatigue, yes, okay, I was exhausted. But there was so many other problems beneath that, starting with adrenal fatigue. So there was so many problems that then as I picked apart each one and fixed it, I started to heal myself just going through, very accountant-like, process step by step. And I healed myself and obviously now live my best life. And so, but yeah, that's when first I was like, obviously it makes sense, right? Our adrenals and energy comes from our adrenals. So if your adrenals are burnt out or exhausted, you've got no energy. At the end of the day, chronic fatigue is an extreme version of no energy.
Yeah. Okay. And so adrenal fatigue. So what even is it? Like, help me understand more of that.
So I like to
It's this
talk
thing.
when I'm
Is it fair to say, Shelley? Like, I mean, I heard it. I shared with you before we started recording too. Like, I don't know, like maybe 10 years ago now, like I've always, saw optimum health and so been into all of this kind of stuff. And, I worked with a naturopath, let's say 10 years ago. And, some of those tests at the time, I can't remember exactly what they were, was sort of this, yeah, your adrenals are burnt out, your adrenals are fatigued, whatever the language would have been. And it's something that I hear other people talk around it, but I've never really truly understood it. But I think it's pretty prevalent, right? In, like we've said, in particularly busy corporates that are just, high achievers, go, 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 like you and I have described ourselves to be. So what is it?
absolutely. And Laura, I'm going to explain it on a very basic level because I
Love
love
it.
to talk basic because we can all
Yes.
understand it. And I'm really good at
Perfect.
analogies that we all have at home or we've seen. So the truth is our adrenals are two glands, like that they are two glands and they're the size of an almond. So if you think about in the kitchen when you're eating almonds, we've got two almonds in our backs, basically at the back, down in our lower back, and so they produce most of the energy in our body. Okay, so 2 almonds are responsible for the energy. Now, what happens is every time, and this is the analogy part, every time you work long hours, you don't sleep very well, you get really sick, but you keep showing up to work, you have really bad symptoms. So, for example, I had really bad headaches for years. That's a symptom. So when you ignore those symptoms, your body is using up energy. And so I talk about it like, if you get an almond, clearly I cook with almonds, and you grate an almond, right? So you've grated it down. So every time you've got symptoms, you're grating the almond down. Now, if you stop and you've got half an almond, when you're meant to have a full almond of energy, your tank is operating at 50%, while my tank, because I've got a full almond, is operating at 100%. Does that make sense? And so basically what I did, which I know is 100% analogy, I took those 2 almonds without knowing and I ground them down until there was nothing left. So there's different stages of adrenal fatigue in terms of where do you stop the almond, in terms of how far have you ground yours down before your body gives up, before you stop, before you do something to help regrow these adrenals.
And replenish. And so we talk around, filling your cup back up and these sorts of things. We should be, same thing, but it's restock your almonds.
And just the difference between filling your cup back up, which I'm all about for like life and enjoyment and nervous system and all of that is. And this is the really tricky part, Laura, and this is the part that really gets me upset, that more corporates don't know. Because like I said to you at the beginning, this would have been very easy. I could have committed to doing this easily. And so you actually have to regrow those almonds. So I'll just take me working really long hours. If I suddenly, my almonds were now half, like 50%, and I decided to only work 2 hours a day, that's great. That's going to stop them getting smaller, but it doesn't actually regrow them. It doesn't rebuild them. You've actually got to, via nutrients or specific foods or taking supplements, to regrow them into health again. Then they're full again. So I was always a ticking time bomb, and I was probably a ticking time bomb with my adrenals from my university days where I burnt the candle way back then. And so I might have gone into the banking world with half these almonds and then ground them down. If I'd known, I'm very good at going, I could incorporate that one thing to regrow my adrenals or protect my adrenals every single day, and this wouldn't have necessarily happened. I'm not saying I would have been the healthiest person in the world necessarily, but I wouldn't have got to the same level that I got to. And so for me, my almonds might have been 25%, and then throw in influenza, throw in the chest infection, and they just gone. That was them done. And so that's why then I was bedridden, basically.
So it's this difference between maintaining the almond level that you've got versus actually doing something to really proactively build them back up.
Yeah. And then, Laura, once they're full, like if I'm on 100%, you've learned those tools that keep your cup full. So the things that make me happy, like going and swimming in the sea or grounding myself or not working like a crazy person, that lets me keep my adrenals stay full. But equally, life happens. So if I ever grind them down again, you can replenish them with specific nutrients. So you don't have to live a perfect life. You're also allowed to be busy. You're allowed to go through different phases. You're allowed to go through different career things, different birthing mum things, all the things. It's just with that awareness, now you've got a tool. Like I've definitely in the past decade had crazy busy times, but I've got a tool where my adrenals, I keep them at 100% because I'm replenishing them specifically.
Yes. And so what are the I'm going to say symptoms that we might see or feel if we're at risk of running these down?
Brain fog is a huge one. So, and forgetfulness, lack of concentration, lack of focus. Really, your brain is needs a lot of energy, right? So you need really good adrenals. So you'll often see it in your brain. You won't have like clear thoughts. Your mind will race, your mind will wander. So really, as a corporate, because obviously accountants, I still work with a lot of corporations. The best thing you can do for your staff and productivity, all corporates, is make sure that their adrenals are working really well, because they're not going to waste time. Their mind's not going to wander. They're not going to have to redo things all the time, because you're not going to make all those mistakes. Another way you know your adrenals are really worn down is if you get sick all the time, because you need energy, you need adrenals to fight off colds fast, or not to get sick, and not to have that sniffly nose and a cold that lasts for days on end, or you feel like you're always getting sick. Another really common one is tired but wired. So you go, yeah, I knew you, and corporates know that one. And another one, Laura, and clients hate me for this. Please, I'm not saying coffee's bad. You can still have your coffee 100%. But when people start using the word, I need coffee, I can't function without coffee, my day's awful without coffee, coffee helps me focus, coffee gives me energy, that's me too. Like in my banking world, I'm not here to judge anyone. I had 6 to 7 a day and just kept adding more in because I needed more and more as my body was getting more and more tired. So those words, when you need coffee, have coffee because it fills your cup. It's a ritual. It's beautiful. But anytime you're needing it or needing sugar for a pick-me-up, or you have a 3 p.m. crash, those are all signs that your little adrenals, your almonds, aren't functioning optimally, and they're starting to get worn out.
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah, so interesting. I want to go back to the piece you said there before around if you get sick all the time. And so I always remember a pattern that I had, right? And I'd love to hear like what the theory on this is. So I would work, take a holiday and get sick.
Yeah,
So what's that all about? I've always understood it to be like, well, it's because you're running on adrenaline the whole time, and then you stop, and then your system kind of
you are.
surrenders. But what's the science behind it?
Well, you are running on adrenaline the whole time. So as soon as you're not running on it, so that's why a lot of people keep pushing. That's another reason people will work really long hours, myself included, because I was pumping out adrenaline. So adrenaline is giving you false energy. So as soon as you stop the pressure on your body, that's why people have coffee. They'll have all sorts of things that keep them hooked into pumping out adrenaline. So adrenaline is there. How we should use it is literally if you're in a life or death situation. Adrenaline should be pumped in the short term, life or death, and then it should stop. What happened with the ultimate adrenal burnout, which was mine, I not only burnt through the cortisol, I burnt out all the adrenaline. So the adrenaline in our bodies is only a small amount, and we should never burn through it. Your body's going to crash. And so what's happening is most of us know that most of us know that if we slow down, we'll get sick. And when we're pumping out cortisol, we've actually suppressed our whole immune system. So we don't even, the sickness is there, we're just masking it. And so as soon as you calm down, it overflows basically. You're able to see it, experience it, and feel it. And so that's another reason people get hooked on not taking holidays, not taking time off, because they're like, I'm going to get sick. And it's like, yes, you will. But if you don't take the break, you're going to run out of adrenaline, and that your body's going to be forced to shut down.
Yeah. And this might be a major sidetrack question, so cover it as you can. But cortisol and adrenaline, like I see so much now, and particularly a woman of 43, it's all this. Don't do this type of exercise because it'll give you too much cortisol. It's like, we don't do this because it'll do this. All the mixed opinions. So I see so much on like Instagram now about, have you got too much cortisol? So I feel like it's a bit of a thing of the moment, but maybe it's just because of my age group and what I'm seeing on my social media feeds. But can you help me understand a bit more around that?
So our adrenals, the energy, the almonds, they produce cortisol. So cortisol's got a bad reputation now. So Laura, it's not an age thing. It's definitely like, we all hate cortisol. The actual truth is every single age, right from like forever, we all produce cortisol. cortisol's really good. Cortisol gets us up and going in the morning. It gets us doing, like, it moves our bodies. Like, it's because of cortisol that we actually function. So cortisol is fantastic. And when we do adrenal lab testing, we want the cortisol pattern to be so that you wake up with a lot of cortisol, great cortisol. It peaks at about 11 a.m. and then it slowly declines until the evening where your cortisol is quite low. So cortisol on its own is fantastic. The problem is when we stay in when you're on the go, you're running, and your cortisol just stays super high, and you use things like wine in the evenings, some sort of medical drugs or whatever in the evenings to calm your body down because your adrenals can't do it for you. That's when cortisol becomes a problem, and that's when cortisol then causes havoc in your body. So too much cardio can cause, from an exercise point of view, to go back to your point there, Laura, can cause too much cortisol. That's true. But if you did cardio and then you did some breathing, like, that doesn't mean like a whole breathing journey, like how me and you know breathing journeys, Laura, could literally be 5 minutes of deep breathing. That will bring your cortisol back down. Perfect. Does that make so? It's doing things to bring your cortisol, and so it could be swimming in the sea, walking in nature, doing something like that. So the problem why cortisol is getting a bad reputation, and it's the word of the moment, you're correct, but across everything, is just that we're pushing. We're using coffee, we're using sugar, we're using all sorts of things to keep us going, pumping cortisol. And that's when it becomes a problem, because we're like seasons every single day. The reason why we have day and night is because we're seasonal. So as long as you can bring down the cortisol in the evening to go with nighttime, you're fine.
Yeah. So it's like, it's okay to have it, but then what are you doing after it? It's okay to spark it, but then it's what are you doing after it to bring it back down to keep it at a more regulated level? Yeah.
Yeah.
And simple
100%,
things,
Laura.
nature, ocean, walking, whatever it is. Yeah. It's so interesting. Like, goodness, like I find this all so fascinating, for sure. And so, what are some of the things then, Shelley, that, if for someone out there who's, regular Joe working, their quote 9 to 5, probably way more job, and is feeling some of these symptoms and signs that you shared already, the brain fog, the confusion, blah, 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 all the pieces that you've kindly shared. What are some of the things that an individual can do for themselves with, trying to manage some of this?
So a super easy one, and a lot of people have read about this, seen it, heard it in blogs and all the rest of it. Magnesium in the evenings brings down cortisol. So magnesium regulates cortisol. So that's a super easy one. So whether it's a magnesium supplement or magnesium-rich foods with dinner, it automatically, the way our body works is magnesium automatically tells your body, poof, cortisol, stop. So it sends a signal to the brain and tells you. So even if you are too busy, like I would have been in my banking days, to do breathing or legs up the wall or stretches or saunas or anything, going for a walk in the evenings. There was no way I was walking in my banking days. It was like a hard run, So even if you're too busy, taking magnesium or eating magnesium-rich foods stops the cortisol. Like, it brings it down. It starts to calm it straight away. Then another thing for energy production, so in the morning for your adrenals, and I have this in my water at the moment, good quality salt, our adrenals they regulate, big words, but I'll tell you what they are in everyday language. So they're the sodium and potassium pump. So they regulate sodium and potassium in your body. Our generation, especially Laura, we hate salt. We got taught that salt was terrible. And yes, chemical salt is terrible. There's no denying it. But good quality Himalayan type salts, anything like that, really rich mineral salts, are really good for our bodies. And our adrenals need salt for energy. They need it, and we need to be eating it. So it doesn't matter if you take an adrenal supplement, you still need to be eating sodium, salt, for your adrenals. So that creates energy. And then the other thing is, we don't want to be eating like all the time. long lasting energy for the adrenals is actually good quality fats. So, in an easy way, for time reasons and for everyone listening, really following the Mediterranean style of eating, even if you want to add in keto and add in like whatever flavor you're into, vegan, paleo, whatever. But that real Mediterranean diet is fats, like good quality
Mm.
fats, your olives, your olive oil, your coconut products, those types of things. And that is the food for your adrenal health. And that was
Mhm.
definitely what I wasn't eating in my banking
Mhm.
days because I
Mhm.
thought fats were bad, you know, and
Yeah.
so fats is the food for your adrenals. You still can eat your fruit, you can still eat your vegetables, you can still eat all your protein, but though that is really essential, it feeds, it's food for your adrenals.
Yeah. Okay. So if I summarize some of those things that you've said, then you've mentioned around magnesium, love magnesium, salts, like really good quality salts, a Mediterranean diet, although you admitted that, that's one thing you weren't doing so well when you were in your banking days, general self-care, legs up the wall. I would be curious, I think, to understand a little bit, what's the reason for the legs up the wall? What does it do? I've heard of it, but what does it do?
Well, also, Laura, to be honest, legs up the wall is a Shelleyism. I like to break
Oh.
everything into everyday language, so I'm explaining literally what it is. It's actually a yoga pose. So it is borrowed
Yeah.
from the yoga world, and it's got a much more technical name that I have now converted to legs up the wall because all my clients understand it, and then we don't need to get into a debate. But it's a tried old, years and years and years old practice in terms of resetting your nervous system. So in this position, and the reason why you do legs up, like legs up, if we tell people to do legs up with no support, it's very stressful on their abs and it becomes a Pilates workout. We're not trying to do that. So really what we're saying is legs rested against something, whether it's a bed, a chair, the wall, as I say to clients, because every client has a wall that they can put their legs against or at work. And so the point of it is to rest your legs so that you're relaxed. We're not trying to do an ab workout. And then in that position, the blood flows away from your brain. And so for a lot of people, myself included in my banking days, I did not know how to quiet my brain. And doing things like breathing or meditation just made me more stressed about how busy my brain was. And so it
Mhm.
actually contributed more like self-judgment, criticism, more stress. And so when your
Mhm.
legs are up the wall, it's naturally happening for you, or legs leaned against something. Because of where the blood is flowing with your heart and your brain, you can't keep having those busy thoughts. So I always say to a client, start. Don't worry if you've got all the thoughts going on, because eventually you'll get 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute of peace. And that's what we're
Amazing.
looking for to switch your nervous system.
Yes,
Yep,
yeah.
so it's
Like
like
as
a
you said,
beautiful.
peace. You said peace. I was like, yum. Yeah, give us some more of that. You got it. And I know it as a yoga pose too. So whatever yoga instructors I must have had over the years must have used the layman term leg up the wall as well. But that's super helpful to understand more of like the why behind it, which is really handy. So if we think that's some of the things that, me, whoever, like people listening can do for themselves, if they were to come to you, Shelley, and maybe other practitioners as well that might be similar, what would be some of the things like tests or whatever I'm imagining that you would do for them or with them?
Absolutely. So there's standard blood work that you can get through a medical practitioner or a practitioner anywhere in the world, where we're looking at things like low iron, low B12. We're looking at all the vitamins and minerals that create energy in your body. So if you've got low iron, you'll often feel fatigued and you'll feel tired. And then it's like, do you have an adrenal problem? Are you an overworker? Or are you literally just deficient in a mineral and a vitamin that we can fix, like supplemental food, and then we get your energy back again? So I'm always looking at, I call them like the low level fruit, and you probably talk about different low level easy wins for people. So I use the medical world and lab testing in that way to get that information, because it's really useful information for optimizing health before we even dig deeper. I'm somebody that goes, why go to worst case scenario if actually there's just some simple things like iron, vitamin D, B12 that we can fix? So I always look to that. I look to thyroid health, which is key for energy and your adrenal health. And then if all of those things are actually showing up as optimized, like the person's in like ultimate amazing ranges, like so high, then we want to dig deeper. And that's when it is more expensive. That's why I don't go there straight away. Is that's when we want to actually look into what is the gold star worldwide is, and anyone can Google this, Dutch hormone testing. And the Dutch hormone testing actually runs an adrenal profile. One of the tests that I use with clients, the test type of test, and it will look at what is actually happening with my adrenals. I've done it plenty of times, and I've had clients do it plenty of times. What is your adrenal pattern? Like, where are you not meeting where your your energy should be really high? Are you waking up at the right levels? When does it fall off? What is happening in your body? And then I'm also looking at cortisol and cortisol testing, and then hormones, because how is that disrupting your hormones and how you feel and energy levels as well. So kind of start off at the easy wins, the low level fruit, and then we dig deeper and go, actually, there's more of a problem than just low iron. Let's really get to what is happening. And so that's very lab-based, test-based. And then the good news is we use supplements or diet and lifestyle, but supplements and diet initially to fix that and heal it and get the person thriving again so they've got great energy. And then you teach them the lifestyle tools and diet tools so you can live your best life, however busy, however thriving, whatever that looks like to each and all of us, because it's different for all of us. And you've got the support and tools to thrive forevermore.
Yeah, and keep those almonds replenished, right? That you were talking around. Love that analogy.
Exactly, Laura. Exactly.
Yes. So good. And Shelley, this has been such a good conversation. Like I love learning about all of this stuff, and I really appreciate, and I'm sure our listeners will as well, your time and sharing all of it with us and sharing your experience and your personal story too, right? And just sort of what I guess led you to actually get into this type of work as well. And I know that the results that you get with your clients are just phenomenal in terms of how you transform their energy, their life, how they feel. Such cool work that you do. So kudos to you for that. So Shelley, if somebody wants to follow along with you, and your Instagram is pretty entertaining, I know from personal experience. So if someone wants to find you, follow along, connect, see how they could work with you, what's the best way to find you?
Well, as Laura says, I love Instagram. I love a good chat. I love a good rant. I love to talk about all things controversial and get you to think. Like for me, most of it is I believe that everyone's a critical thinker and can actually make very informed decisions, and we resonate with what feels right for us. And so sometimes when I'm talking controversially, it actually just gives you to think. Like that is sometimes I wish on my banking days, I think, and Laura, you're the same, we're smart, intelligent women. But if we haven't been exposed to other ways of thinking or somebody giving some other opinion, how are we meant to be critical and think for ourselves on different topics? So I definitely do stir the pot on different topics to get you thinking and wondering and getting curious around your health, your body, your life. And so I do that on Instagram. A more formal way of connecting with me is on my website. It's much more PC and all that. Like, it's not that my Instagram's not PC, but it's much more formal and you'll get all the tools. But the thing is, at the end of the day, I'm an ex-investment banker. I'm an ex-chartered accountant. So everything I do is evidence-based. It's backed up. There's always a lot of data. There's always a lot of proof. There's always a lot of lab testing, numbers, checking. Like, I need to know my credits and debits balance every day. I might not be in accounting anymore, but I still have that philosophy in terms of how I work with people. And my website is very much like that. But if you want a little bit of stirring the pot, occasionally you go on my Instagram and you'll get that for sure.
Yeah, perfect. And I will put all of the links to your website and Instagram and whatnot in the notes so that people can find you easily as well, Shelley. But thank you so much again for your time in sharing all of this with us. It's been fantastic, and I've no doubt, of course, you and I will catch up soon. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Laura. Bye.